Hi guys, this is Hirosaki. This story is all about what if Naruto was born a low-class devil before the Great Devil War. Realizing how the devil class system subjugated devils of lower class, Naruto will represent his origins as he rises and expose the corrupted system that he lives in, and he'll do it without the high-class devils even realizing it. Before we start, kindly like and subscribe to this channel, and look over the description box for the author of this amazing storyline. Welcome aboard. Chapter 4, The King's Advisor. Kuo Academy. Monday, 2 days after meeting Orochimaru. Hello class. My name is Orochimaru Suki, however, you shall to refer to me as either Mr. Suki or Dr. Suki. I will be your new chemistry teacher since your old chemistry teacher suddenly died some type of poison. Nobody knows who did it, fufufu. Orochimaru was standing in front of his new class in a black suit with a white shirt and black tie. He had a briefcase sitting on his desk. The Snake Man was very skilled in the field of chemistry, and was honored to take on the role as the new teacher. If you have any questions, please, don't hesitate to ask. Orochimaru said with a smile and a head tilt. Let it be about me or anything else. I want you all to be comfortable around me. Orochimaru's slitted eyes moved to two students in particular, Rias Gremory and Akino Himajima. The two shuddered at the Snake Man looking at them with mischievous eyes. He knew that they feared him, and was taking advantage of that with every movement. One of the girls slowly raised her hand and Orochimaru gave her the okay to speak. I don't mean to be rude, but, why is your skin so pale? A question that the whole class wanted to know. Everyone paid close attention to what their new teacher was going to say. Orochimaru smiled a little before answering. I know that it may seem weird to see someone with such pale skin, and your question wasn't rude at all since I am asked that a lot. Orochimaru said to girl. Does anyone know of the atomic bomb that hit Nagasaki some time ago? Yes, said one of the male students with glasses. The United States used 2 atomic bombs on the cities of Nagasaki and Hiroshima towards the end of World War II, which was one of the main deciding factors in Japan's surrender. Correct. Smart child. Orochimaru said. Well, this attack happened while my grandparents were still alive. I know you all are sure of the after effects from that attack, I presume? He asked. There are children today that still carry birth defects from the chemicals that entered their parents' bodies. My defect that I was born with is my pale skin. It's not contagious if you are wondering. Orochimaru said with a light chuckle. Rias raised her eye at Orochimaru's action. This wasn't the demon that they met 2 days ago. He seemed to be more light-hearted and was an actually nice person. And his backstory was also very interesting to the redhead. His family was affected by the chemicals from the bomb attack of World War II? Maybe that meant that his family wasn't from devil heritage, meaning that he was a human reincarnated as a devil at some point. Another student raised their hand and Orochimaru gave them the signal to speak. Why do you teach? Was it a dream of yours? At first, it wasn't. Orochimaru said. But after learning everything that I know about the scientific world, I felt like it was my duty to pass on my knowledge to the youth of the world so that they can advance in places we, humans, haven't reached yet. The devils in the room caught how he said humans, and it made them even more suspicious of the man. 2 of the other devils in the room, Sona Citri, whose alias is Shirtorai Sona, and Tsubaki Shinri, another, king and queen, duo in the school, made note to make sure that the man wasn't up to anything bad. I have a question, Dr. Suki. Sona said with a raised hand. Her eyes held seriousness to them as she looked him eye to eye. Where were you born? I was born in Kyoto. My parents moved there after they married and that's where I spent most of my childhood. Sona squinted her eyes in suspicion as she inspected the grinning man. Oh, they were going to have a long talk. Now then. Orochimaru said with a clap as he faced his students. I studied up on where you previously were, and we'll start there today. Please open your textbooks to page 131. During the whole class, the 4 female devils kept their eyes on the dangerous man as he taught his class without a care in the world. They knew that he was aware of their stares, but he only seemed to smirk at them and carried on teaching his class, which irritated them even further. He was playing with them. Rias and Akino had informed Sona and Tsubaki what he had did to them a few days ago, and made sure to keep their guard up whenever they were around him. After an hour of teaching, the bell rang, signaling that the students were to change classes. However, before the class left, Orochimaru had an announcement. Will Rias Gremory, Shirtorai Sona, Akino Himejima, and Tsubaki Shinri please stay after the bell? There's something I'd like to say to you all. The young devils nodded, but held their fear as they watched their classmates slowly file out the room, leaving them with a now smirking Orochimaru. Rias and Akino readied their magic, prompting the other two to do the same. Orochimaru sighed and spoke, "Calm down. I don't plan on doing anything to you," he said as he put a hand on his forehead and shook his head in disapproval. "Why should we believe you?" Akino asked with a glare. "After what you did to us 2 days ago, do you really think that we should actually trust you?" "I didn't say you should trust me," Orochimaru said with a glare towards Akino, which made her shudder in fear. "All I want is for you all to know that I'm not the enemy. While what I did a few days ago was too much, something I wish to apologize for, all I want you to know is that I'm not going to hurt you. However, if it is prompted that you all try to attack me..." The floorboards started to creak as Orochimaru released his ki. It wasn't as strong as before, but it was enough to put fear in the young devils' hearts. He stopped his ki outage and smiled at the devils. "I want to hold a meeting with all of you to discuss things further. Maybe after school? Around 4 p.m. would be great. I would like to have it in the student council room since I haven't seen it yet." The female devils looked at each other, as if having a mental conversation that Orochimaru couldn't hear. Rias sighed and turned back to the Snake Man. "That'll be acceptable. After school at 4. We'll meet at the student council room." "Great. Now, you are all dismissed," Orochimaru said with a smile and a wave. Nodding at their teacher, the group slowly made their way out of his classroom and into the hallway. "We need to prepare," Sona said to Rias. "Agreed," the redhead said simply as they made their way down the hallway. They didn't trust the man at all, and they needed to be ready for any shady acts he may pull. After school. Occult Research Club. Rias sat at her desk, Akino behind her, a scowl on her face, as she looked at her peerage, with one member missing. "Where is Issei?" Rias asked, her voice holding no playfulness to it. She wanted her full peerage to be present at the meeting, and having Issei gone lowered their battle power if something were to go down during the meeting. "I don't know, Bucho," Kiba said. "I saw him earlier, but I don't know where he is now." "Damn it," she muttered to herself as she put her hand on her forehead in stress. Now she had to make the decision on either letting Issei skip the meeting or sacrifice another peerage member in order to find the boy. "If I were to send someone to find him, it would have to be either Kaneko or Kiba," she thought. However, it would seem odd and disrespectful to appear at the meeting without a full peerage. There's also the fact that Issei may do something rash during the meeting, which may put us on Orochimaru's bad side. And by what he did to us a few days ago, making me feel utterly powerless, that's something that we don't need right now. "Have you come to a decision, Rias?" Akino asked her best friend. Rias sighed as she looked back at Akino. "We'll have to leave Issei to his own devices. This meeting is more important right now, and I need everything right. I'll have to punish him later for his absence, but for now, we'll prepare mentally to meeting that man again," she said. Everyone agreed, understanding the importance of the meeting that was going to happen in under an hour's time. However, there was one question on everyone's mind. Where was the Red Dragon pervert? Kuo. So, you're supposed to go to the church, right? Asked our perverted friend as he looked down at a blonde nun walking next to him. Asia Argento, a nun to the Roman Catholic Church, smiled at Issei as she nodded at him. After he witnessed her healing a young boy's injury and telling him that he was lost, he offered to show her to the church she desperately needed to help. Yes, she answered with a smile. I was told that there was a church here in town, but I've been looking for hours and got lost. It's understandable, Issei said as he crossed his arms behind his head. You're new in town. I'm surprised the church would allow a girl to come out here alone by herself. That's a little dangerous if you ask me. Oh, no worries, Asia reassured. I'm glad that I was deployed out here. I've wanted to visit Japan for such a long time now. Well, maybe one day I can show you around? Asked Issei. Asia gave Issei an innocent smile that made his heart flutter slightly. Sure. I'd like that. Issei gave Asia his own smile in response. The girl held an aura of happiness around her that was impossible to avoid. He was going to make sure that she got to the church safely. I couldn't protect her. I couldn't do anything to save her. Issei halted in his steps as his eyes suddenly widened in fear. Those were the same words that he thought to himself when Orochimaru filled his whole being in fear with just a glance. Asia's smiling face kinda reminded him of Yuma's, her smiling, beautiful face. Mr. Issei? Asia said as she looked at the boy in concern. He suddenly stopped walking and stared off in space. She hoped that he was okay. Issei heard Asia's voice, which brought him back to reality. Oh. I'm sorry, he said frantically. I just spaced off for no reason and... It's okay, Mr. Issei. Asia said with another smile, which put Issei's mind at ease, but only a little bit. Now let's get you to that church, Issei said as he put some pep in his step. Yes, Asia said as she followed the reincarnated devil down the road. Student Council Room, 4 p.m. Orochimaru stood in front of the doors of the Student Council Room with Lee right behind him. Orochimaru was back to wearing his regular garbs and thick purple rope tied around his waist, while Lee was in his usual tracksuit. Now, Lee, Orochimaru said while looking back at the younger boy, I know that we haven't known each other for long, but I've come to like your presence. It's better than being alone these last couple of years, and I'm glad to have met another Peerage member. Likewise, Orochimaru, Lee said excitedly. While the man had his scary moments, Lee had come to respect the man after these last few days with him. Now, this meeting is very important, so I'll do most of the talking. You'll sit beside me and make sure to conduct yourself accordingly, all right? Orochimaru asked with a genuine smile. Yes, sir. Lee gave the snake man a thumbs up, something Orochimaru gained accustomed to over the last couple of days. He nodded back at Lee before pushing the doors open. The student council room looked similar to the occult research club, however. Sona had the couches in the room set in a triangular position. Sona, sipping some of the tea her, queen, prepared earlier, was sitting on a couch by herself with her peerage behind her. Ria sat similar to Sona, her peerage waiting patiently for the meeting to start. Orochimaru and Lee approached the couch that was facing both Rias and Sona and sat down. Orochimaru crossed one leg over the other as he sat down, while Lee just sank into the couch without any pleasantries. Tsubaki, may you please fetch Orochimaru and Lee some tea for them to enjoy during this meeting? Asked Sona. Tsubaki nodded her hand as she rolled a small cart next to the two male devils and handed them two teacups. Thank you very much, Lee said with a smile, while Orochimaru didn't say anything to thank Tsubaki. You're welcome, Tsubaki said with a small smile, but she was a little mad that Orochimaru didn't say anything. Now that you two have your tea, said Rias as she set her cup down. It's time for this meeting to start. I have a lot of questions for you two, and I need answers. Sounds like you're demanding answers out of me. Orochimaru said with a laugh as he set his teacup down. Please tell me how you're going to do that, fufufu. Please, Sona said with a serious face, this meeting should be peaceful. We don't need anyone lashing out on each other. Well, I'm sure that some of you don't know who I am, so introductions are in order. Orochimaru said as he stood up and gave the younger devils a bow. My name is Orochimaru. I am a pawn of my master and I'll serve him until the ends of time. Lee stood up as well and copied Orochimaru's action. My name is Lee. Also known as the beautiful green beast. I'm a rook, peace to my master's peerage. Please. Let's become friends. Orochimaru rolled his eyes at Lee's introduction, but kept his thoughts to himself. Now, will you all introduce yourselves as well? Of course. Ria said as she stood up and flattened out her skirt. I am Rias Gremory, king of my peerage. Akino Himajima is my queen, Kiba Yuto is my knight, and Kaneko Tuju is my rook. It is a pleasure. She said with a bow. Where is Issei at? Will he be able to attend, Rias? Asked Lee. Well, Issei won't be attending. I guess he forgot to come today. My apologies. No problem. I'll talk to him soon and inform him on what he missed out on. Lee said with a thumbs up. Seems like I'm last. Sona said with a sigh as she stood up as well. My name is Sona Citri, however, my alias in the human world is Shirtorai Sona. My queen is Tsubaki Shinra, who you've already met. My two bishops are Momo Hanakai and Rei Kosaka. Tomo Meguri is my knight, and Tsubasa Yura is my rook, and my two pawns are Grenchira Saji and Ruruko Nimura. We hope that this meeting will be beneficial for everyone. She said with a light bow, her peerage following her lead. Your alias here in human world is Shirtorai Sona? Orochimaru said with a creepy chuckle. I'd say you should have kept your real name, because that isn't hiding anything from a supernatural being. I'm not trying to hide, Orochimaru. Sona said as she sipped her tea. I decided that when I came here to the human world, I didn't want my actual devil's name on any records. It was my selflessness that made the decision to keep the anything related to devils off of anything human records. Good answer. Orochimaru said. I know, plus, if anyone from any faction were looking for me. She sent a glare right at the snake man. I'd gladly take up any issue they have. Oh ho ho. Laughed Orochimaru. You really are a smart one, aren't you? Orochimaru laced his fingers together and leaned forward. It seems you already have a problem with me, so please state your worries. For one, I don't like how you introduced yourself to Rias a few days ago. Sona said with a small glare. It isn't right for you to barge into someone's territory and presenting yourself as a menace. Very disrespectful, if you ask me. She finished as she looked at Orochimaru accusingly. Oh that. Orochimaru said with a fake smile. I did that because I thought that the daughter of Ama would be stronger and could handle some of my ki. However, it seemed like she and her peerage couldn't handle it. I did say I was sorry for my actions earlier, but I was really disappointed in their reaction. A scowl slowly grew on Ria's face as Orochimaru continued to disgrace her peerage. She considered herself and her peerage strong, even after the beating that Lee gave them. She knew that they had room for improvement, but she wasn't going to let this man act better than them. I don't care how you feel about me, but I'm not going to let you casually talk down on my peerage. We have our own problems that we got through together, and we are still growing in strength every day. While you thought we should have endured your ki, you should be glad that you weren't charged in threatening someone of my status and thrown in jail. Rias countered. If you keep that same mindset, you'll be weak for the rest of your life. Orochimaru said with a sideways glance at Rias, whose eyes widened at Orochimaru's statement. If you keep on thinking that someone else will solve your problems, you'll never be able to solve them by yourself. I don't care who you are or what your status is, you've been pampered into thinking that your power comes from your rank, but we all know that's not true. Ria's glare was growing in intensity as Orochimaru continued speaking. Lee told me of the battle he had with you, along with your Rook and Knight. While I do not know how long those two have been devils, I do know that Lee has been a devil for about 2 years now, if I am correct. After receiving a nod from Lee, Orochimaru continued. Reincarnated humans start off as low-class devils. So, you, Rias Gremory, a high-class devil, was thwarted by a 2-year low-class devil with the support of 2 of your peerage members. While Lee does consider that you all won the battle, it isn't a good look to be pushed to such ends by a rookie devil now. Explained Orochimaru. Orochimaru, muttered Lee, catching the creep's attention. Lee didn't like the direction of the conversation, and was slowly getting uncomfortable with the growing tension in the atmosphere. Orochimaru sighed as he understood what Lee was getting at. While he enjoyed egging at the Gremory princess, he wasn't going to do it if it made Lee uncomfortable. Nevertheless, you understand where I'm coming from, and if you really are the heiress of the Gremory clan, you should act like it for once in your life, said Orochimaru. Rias growled at Orochimaru as her magic was actively moving inside of her in response to her anger. Everyone in the room felt it, but her magic grew even more aggressive when she saw Orochimaru's calm smile. He wasn't even scared of her. The disrespect he has shown her was getting to her, and she was going to show him who was boss. I'll show what being the heiress to Gremory really means. Rias yelled at Orochimaru as she stood up. Everyone, other than Orochimaru and Lee, readied for the fight that was about to break out. Rias, calm down, Sona said with every bit of seriousness she had. All you're doing is proving his point. This is a peaceful meeting, and you shouldn't let his words get to you. Rias took a few deep breaths as she took in Sona words. I am acting out. I need to calm down, she thought to herself as she recalled her magic. Akino had a hand on Ria's shoulder to make sure she was okay. Rias gave Akino a quick nod, letting her know that she was good, and sat back down on her couch. All while this happened, Orochimaru was smiling to himself. Seems like I hit a weak point, thought Orochimaru. And while I do have an extra dirt on her, I need some type of information on the Citri girl that I could use for my advantage later on. Now that's resolved, Orochimaru said as he was now the center of attention, I know you all have some questions about me and Lee. While I can't answer them all, I'll try my best to answer anything my master has deemed okay to inform you too. I have a question, Sona said to Orochimaru. Rias told me about the battle she and 2 of her peerage members against Lee. Lee's head perked up at hearing his name. What I want to know is how did your master know about Issei's sacred gear? Good question. You are very analytic on a situation that didn't happen to you. I wish your friend was the same way, Orochimaru said with a quick shot at Rias. However, Rias kept her rage on the inside, for now. My master scouts out anyone that catches his eye. He told me that he visited Kuo about 2 months ago and felt the presence of a strong sacred gear here. He sent Lee to go investigate and see if he could recruit this person as his first major mission of the peerage. Correct, Lee chipped in. Master usually had me either doing small contracts or training most of the day. I was really excited to finally be able to go out and recruit someone to add to Master's peerage. If your master was in the area 2 months ago, why didn't we feel his energy, or why didn't he reveal himself to us? Asked Sona. Master is a very secretive person, Orochimaru said as he laced his fingers together. When I first met Master, he caught me by surprise. Even now, he'll pop up and I won't even know he's there until he says anything. He has a talent in hiding his presence. Also, he probably didn't want to reveal himself to you because that'll create extra competition over Issei, Lee added. Understandable, Sona summed up. While she wanted more information on their master, they were giving them simple answers that she couldn't build a strong hypothesis on who he was. I have a question, specifically for you, Orochimaru. Ria said, holding back a growl. How many pawn pieces are you worth? My number of evil pieces within me, Orochimaru muttered as he thought the question over. It may reveal an estimate of his master's level of power, but it still wouldn't reveal too much about their master. It took 3 pawn pieces to revive me, answered Orochimaru. Everyone's, other than Lee, jaw dropped at what Orochimaru said. 3 pawn pieces. And he was that strong? That's impossible, muttered Tsubaki as she felt Orochimaru's base magic levels he was letting off. She could tell that he was strong, very strong, but for someone of his strength and potential, it would take a regular high-class devil at least 6 pawn pieces. Just who is their master? Sona's queen thought to herself as she looked at Orochimaru. Just 3. Ria said in shock. She and her peerage felt, firsthand, the power that Orochimaru held within him. It would have taken her at least 5 or 6 pieces to revive Orochimaru, judging off of his strength. How is that possible? Explain? There you go, demanding answering questions again. I can give you a personal demonstration on how strong I am. That is, if you can handle me, he said with a slick smirk that gave Ria shivers. Never mind. You just explain yourself, Ria said as she turned away from the snake man, not wanting him to see the fear etched on her face. Well, you all do know how evil pieces work? Orochimaru asked. The stronger the devil is actually reincarnating someone, the smaller the amount of evil pieces needed to bring them back. There are also factors like if the reincarnated person already has a large magic reserve or not, heritage, potential, etc. My master was able to reincarnate me with only 3 pawn pieces because he was strong enough to do so. Also, something that I found out about while being a member of my master's peerage. I wasn't born a full human. Apparently, I have some yukai heritage in me, serpent yukai to be more specific. My birth defect that I told you all in class was somewhat a lie. It isn't a birth defect, but it's my bloodline manifesting itself after its dormancy in my family. The bomb's chemical properties helped in manifesting my yukai blood, giving me my pale skin, he explained. Amazing, muttered Sona as she looks at Orochimaru in wonder. This man was strong, she knew that from the fight that he had with Rias, but it almost frightened her thinking about how strong Orochimaru's master was. Just who is your master? Asked Sona. Sorry, that's a question I cannot answer, said Orochimaru. Master likes his privacy, but he'll reveal himself when the right conditions are met. What do you mean by that? Asked Rias. My master wants to show off the power of his peerage before he makes his entrance, explained Orochimaru. He has handpicked his peerage and knows that we have the power to do things no one has seen before. I'll be the one leading the peerage until my master makes his arrival. I am my king's advisor. So, your king wants his peerage to show its strength. How will you all do that, and who else is in your peerage? Asked Rias. Well, the first way we are going to introduce ourselves to the underworld is by challenging and defeating popular devils in a raiding game. We'll keep on sending out challenges until we are recognized for our strength, the Snake Man explained. My master's peerage is very strong, and we are available for any service that anyone may have. So, if you two have any problems that you know you cannot solve yourselves, we are here to help. Ria's eyebrow rose at that. Maybe they can help her with her own problem. Before meeting you, Lee said that he hadn't met anyone else from his peerage. Do you know of any others from your peerage? Asked Sona. I know most of them, but I haven't met our queen yet, answered Orochimaru. We have a queen? Said an excited Lee. I bet she's amazing. Super strong, super beautiful, can make fire with her bare hands, can cook protein-filled meals, and more, he shouted. Yes. I hope she can do that too, said a deadpanned Orochimaru. Anyway, I come to you two to let you know that my master's Peerage members should be coming here soon to set up base. We'll use this town as our base of operations, and we promise to behave ourselves. So you think you can just move into our territory without our permission? Said an angry Rias. Didn't the fallen angels already do that? Asked Orochimaru with a smirk, causing Rias to growl out in anger and embarrassment. Well, in order to please such high-class devils, I'll ask you two politely to allow my master's Peerage to hold asylum here in Kuo. However, even if you say no, we'll still make Kuo our base of operations. So, do you agree? Asked Orochimaru with a grin filled with evil. Sona glanced at Rias and saw the anger that filled her face. Sona thought that maybe together, they could have a chance at defeating Orochimaru and Lee, but a Peerage filled with monsters as strong as, or even stronger than Orochimaru. They were going to have to play this one safe. What are you thinking, Rias? Sona asked out loud. I think that we should report this man to our siblings, said Rias with a smile. No matter how strong Orochimaru or his master's Peerage was, they couldn't be stronger than Surzex. Fufufu, spoken like a true coward. Orochimaru said. All you're doing is supporting the fact that you aren't a real heiress and can't make decisions on your own. How pathetic. Rias saw red as she stood up from her seat again. This man was pissing her off to no end. You think I'm an incompetent, huh? She yelled at the snake man. I'll show you. You can stay here and you'll be watched by me personally. You won't do anything crazy while here at our territory. Remember your place while living here, understood? She yelled. Orochimaru gave Rias a kind smile, knowing he had won the physiological battle. Why, thank you so much for agreeing to us staying here. I really appreciate it. Rias snapped out of her rage-filled mindset as she realized that she was played. Shit. Well then, I'll say that this meeting is a success. We shall live here in Kuo under your rule for now. I promise that we'll keep things to a minimum and help protecting the town. I hope we can have another meeting like this soon, said Orochimaru as he got up from the couch with Lee following his lead. Wait. I didn't dash. Good day, said Orochimaru as he and Lee headed out the door. Time to schedule a meeting with Naruto Bael. And with that, the two closed the door behind them. Wait, said Sona as she stood up from her seat in shock. Did he say that he's going to meet up with Naruto? Rias' eyes also widened at what Orochimaru said. If he was going to meet with her cousin, then it must be because that he wanted to challenge him in the name of his master. Also, Orochimaru was a smart man, so he wouldn't take any challenge he knew he wouldn't win. If he's confident enough to challenge Naruto, then he must be strong enough to defeat Riser. Outskirts of Kuo. Orochimaru and Lee appeared in front of a large, two-story house outside of town. While it wasn't a mansion, something that Rias and Sona were used to living in, the house was big enough to hold several people. The two entered in silence, thinking back on the meeting they just had with the two heiresses. To Orochimaru, it went just as he planned. While he didn't learn anything major about Sona, his main target, Rias Gremory, fell right into his trap. He knew about her forced marriage situation and specifically expressed how strong his master's Peerage was and that they were able to be rented out for services. That way, whenever they need something from the redhead, Orochimaru was sure to exploit her weaknesses for their own cause. Lee sat down on a couch in the living room while running his hands through his hair in stress. What they didn't feel right at all. He didn't want to be enemies with the other devils, but with Orochimaru acting the way he was, it wouldn't be long before his new friends will become his new enemies. Something troubling you, Lee? Orochimaru as he crossed his arms. I don't know about this, Orochimaru, he said with worry. Aren't we supposed to make friends with them? Wouldn't that make things easier? Orochimaru sighed and took a seat on one of the couches in the room. Yes, that would make things easier. However, with what we are trying to do, this is one of the few ways we can succeed in our goals. What are we trying to do, Orochimaru? Lee yelled. I've been a member for 2 years, but you're the first person in this peerage I've met, and that was just a few days ago. Another sigh escaped the snake man's lips. It was unfair that they had waited this long to explain to Lee what was going on. Maybe it was time to explain to him, said a voice in Orochimaru's head. That voice was the same voice that saved him long ago, and he promised to follow his master's every order. Nodding to himself, Orochimaru looked up at Lee's angry face. It was now time to explain everything. Lee, you need to know everything, said Orochimaru. Lee's eyebrow rose a little. He had always been curious about why his master never shown himself to him, always appearing as a small orange orb that reeked of power. Our master is currently in a seal somewhere in this world, he explained, causing Lee's eyes to widen in shock. Sealed? How? And why is he like this? Asked Lee. Long ago, before either you or I was born, our master was on the front lines of a civil war of devils. There was the old Satan faction, who wanted to keep traditions alive, and the anti-Satan faction, a group of devils opposing the old, wanting to move on from old traditions and bring about new ones, like the evil peace system. The war lasted several years, yet our master fought and lived to see the end. He was one of the more memorable devils in the battle, because of the power he displayed during the fight. Really? Said Lee in wonder. If their master was able to live through such a war, he had to be stronger than what Lee had once thought. However, there were some complications during the war, dealing with ranking in the Devil Society. Even the anti-Satan faction, who was fighting against the evil old faction, had its own evils to deal with. Said Orochimaru. Are those same evils the reason why he was sealed? Asked Lee. Yes. You may not know this, but our master was born a low-class devil in the Bael clan. He said. Born Naruto Bael, our master made his way up the ranks during the war, but he was still a low-class devil. One thing the nobles didn't like that our master did was show up their children during the war. However, the thing that had the devil world angry was that Naruto-sama was dating a young devil from the Citri clan, Serafal Citri, the heiress to the Citri clan. Lee squinted his eyes as he listened to Orochimaru's tale. He knew where this was going. Naruto-sama loved her a lot, but she had her own duties to her clan that she put before Naruto-sama. They were demanded to separate after the war, but they stayed together. Sick of waiting, the leader of the Citri clan called to remove Naruto-sama out of the picture by force. He ordered some of his clansmen and got help from other clans to put Naruto-sama away in a seal. He showed him mercy because he meant a lot to his daughter, but he didn't want her to be involved with him any longer. So, they sealed him up somewhere we don't know. Lee assumed, getting a nod of confirmation from Orochimaru. Okay, that explains a lot, but there are still questions I have. One being, how does Naruto-sama have an evil pieces in the first place? Your story tells me that he is still a low-class devil while in his seal. So how does he have a peerage? That is a good question, muttered Orochimaru as he rubbed his chin. How does their master have an evil piece set when he is still a low-class devil? I don't know how he cheated the system, or even if he cheated it at all. I did say that he was marvelous in the Civil War. Maybe he was offered it then, but we would have known about that. I would have known about that because of all the research I've done on him. Well, we'll figure it out some other day, said Lee. Let's get back into the main reason why we're here. So, Naruto-sama is sealed by high-class devils. The question now is, how do we get him out? That question, fortunately, has been answered by Naruto-sama himself. Before he was sealed, he killed some of those who conducted the sealing process, weakening the strength of his jail. That's how he's been able to create his peerage while still in his seal. Our master's mind must be strong to handle the struggle of being stuck in seal for centuries, planning his escape every day, and making his peerage strong. Naruto-sama is as cunning as he is patient. And doing this while nobody knows you're alive, muttered Lee. I don't know how he could do it. I'd go crazy stuck in something by myself, for centuries. He must be lonely. And that's why we're going to save him soon, said Orochimaru. There is a way to release him of his predicament. How? Lee simply asked. Blood, muttered Orochimaru. By gaining enough blood from the clans of the devils who created the seal for Naruto-sama, we will be able to save him from his suffering. Blood, muttered Lee. He had seen his fair share of blood, thinking back of the car wreck he had with his late sensei. So, we need blood. Who do we get it from, and how? According to Naruto-sama, there were 3 clans of devils present during the sealing: Gremory, Citri, and Bael. What? Shouted Lee as he jumped from his seat in anger. The Bael clan helped this happen? How could they do this to their own clansmen? They didn't like how strong Naruto-sama was becoming, muttered Orochimaru as he ran his hand through his long hair. The leader of the Bael clan didn't produce any heirs back then and didn't want someone like Naruto messing anything up. And the Gremory and Citri? Well, I understand the Citri, but why would the Gremory benefit from this? That's another question I can't answer, Orochimaru said in spite. He wishes he had the answer to everything, but he was also uncomfortably in the dark with that question. Well, we know the clan we need to get the blood from, now who do we get it from? Lee asked. There are 3 candidates for the task. 3 that I have researched thoroughly, and I know their weakness, said Orochimaru as he took out 3 pictures from his pocket and set them on the coffee table in the middle of the room. These 3 are Rias Gremory, Sona Citri, and Serorg Bael. The blood has to be from high-class devils from the same clans as those who made the seal in order for this to work. Alright, how are we doing this? Asked Lee. He didn't like that Rias was among the selected few, but it had to be done in order to free the man that had done so much for him. First up is Serorg Bael, said Orochimaru as he pointed to his picture. He is the heir to the Bael clan, however, he doesn't get along with his father, Lord Bael. Born without the power of destruction, he and his mother were shunned away from the clan, both now living on the countryside of the Bael territory. His mother, Misla Bael, has taken care of Serorg, helping him train in order to become as strong as he is now. He is one of the strongest young devils, if not the strongest, but still doesn't have a noble status like how a high-class devil should. We'll use his love for his mother against him. How? Asked Lee. We can't just ask for his blood like that. We need some other type of edge against him. And that edge is the rating game system, answered Orochimaru. The rating game is one of the best ways for a devil to be recognized for their strength in the underworld. He loves competing in them and has a good record. We'll challenge him to a rating game. We'll offer any reward that he wants if he wins, and he'll ask for something that relates to his mother. I'm sure he will ask something like that because of researching and observing the 2. He'll want to help his mother in any way possible. If we win, which we shall, then we will receive our reward, a pint of his blood. And the backup plan if this doesn't work? Asked Lee. The original plan will succeed, even if we need to tweak it a little, Orochimaru said. Misla knows that she was one of the reasons why Naruto disappeared. She is one of the few at the top that doesn't know what happened to Naruto, but I've heard she regrets it, especially now that Serafall is a Satan. Their original plan of getting rid of Naruto was for nothing because once a devil becomes a Satan, they renounce their clan to prove that they are loyal to all devils, and not just one clan. Ever since then, Misla felt like she broke up something that could have been special. If our first plan to attack Serorg fails, we can lean on her for support. Alright, sounds good, Lee said. He rubbed his chin as he looked at the last two. But what about these two? Rias Gremory and Sona Citri, the heiresses we just met not too long ago. Orochimaru said as he picked up their photos. The two of them will fall together in my plan, and most of it leans on Rias Gremory. How do you plan on doing that? Asked Lee. Something that I found out about through my research is that Rias is in an arranged marriage with Riser Phoenix, a man she does not want to marry. She has expressed herself to her parents to stop the marriage, but they both believe that they should get married in order to preserve pure-blooded devils. Rias disagrees with the notion and wants to break off the marriage, but she isn't strong enough to do so. That's where we come in. We'll offer our service to her to disable the marriage with a rating game. Riser Phoenix, an arrogant man that is used to getting what he wants, will take up our challenge. According to his behavior, he'll take up any opportunity to destroy and humiliate anyone to make himself look better. Explained Orochimaru. So we beat him in a rating game, and as a price for our service, both Rias and Sona will give up their blood. Finished Lee. Correct. Sona and Rias are best friends, and it pains Sona to watch from the sidelines to what Rias is going through. If there is a way for her to help, she'll do it. I see Rias giving up her blood in order for this to happen, but what if Sona doesn't consent with our price? I'm not trying to make fun of Rias, but Sona is clearly the smarter one of the two. She'll believe something is amiss. Explained Lee. Right again, Lee. If that happens, then we'll go to the one that started it all, Seraphal Leviathan. Orochimaru said with anger. Ever since he found out what she did to his master, he always held a strong hatred in his heart for her. We'll tell her everything that we know, and use her guilt against her. She'll offer up her own blood to save her past lover. However, Naruto-sama takes that, it doesn't matter to me, will be his choice, but hopefully he isn't overwhelmed with her decision if this happens. Lee rubbed his legs as he thought over everything that Orochimaru explained to him. It was a plan that he couldn't have thought up himself, and Lee was impressed that Orochimaru's intelligence was this vast. If everything folded together, this plan may work. This can work. This can really work. Shouted Lee in excitement. If they followed the plan, then they really could free their master. Yes, it can. All we need now is our Peerage members with us. Said Orochimaru. How are we going to do that? Asked Lee. Orochimaru gave Lee one of his trademark smirks as he set both of his palms on the floor. A blue magical seal appeared on the floor. Lee watched as Orochimaru put extra concentration into the seal, and then Orochimaru spoke into it. Now's the time, everyone, we are in Koho, Japan. It's time for Naruto Bael's Peerage to meet for the first time in history. Somewhere in the underworld. The Red Sea that filled a lot of the underworld was calm during a sunny day. While most devils don't step outside their territory and what they are used to, many extra devils locate elsewhere, in lands that are far away from the major territories of devil society. The Red Sea acted as a border of society, giving the extra demons peace and quietness. Out of the Red Sea, shark fins breached out of the water. The fins were larger than sharks in the human world, each fin being at least 10 feet tall. The demonic sharks were moving in slow circles, almost hypnotically. A man slowly appeared out of the water on top of one of the large sharks. Wearing an all-black cloak and a sword covered in bandages, and devilish grin appeared on his face. I guess now's the time. I was starting to get hungry anyway. Sydney, Australia. Stupid humans. Muttered a boy as he was relaxing in a beach chair. The boy was watching a group of kids burying a fat man that fell asleep on his beach towel, with an ice cone in his hand, under the sand. They were trying to hold back their laughter as the fat man didn't have any idea what was going on. The boy moved his attention to another group of people, a family setting up their beach items together. The mother and daughter were helping set up the picnic they had prepared beforehand, while the little boy and father was setting down the beach towels and an umbrella for shade. Humph. the boy said with a small smirk as he closed his eyes and went back to relaxing. He was on vacation finally. Dealing with his twin brother and his fiancée really took a lot of energy. Maybe I can stay here longer than planned, he muttered to himself. Sensing that no one was watching him, he raised his hand up and produced a flame in his hand. He stared at it for a while before he looked up at the clouds. Now's the time, everyone, we are in Koho, Japan. It's time for Naruto Bael's Peerage to meet for the first time in history. The boy sighed as he stood up, revealing his long black hair. He was shirtless and was wearing red shorts and black sandals. He folded his beach chair and set his umbrella on his shoulder and slowly made his way out of the beach. Behind him, a large red monster appeared, transparent to human eyes. I can never get a break, he muttered as he continued his streak out of the beach. Los Angeles, California. Guitar Center. Now's the time, everyone, we are in Koho, Japan. It's time for Naruto Bael's Peerage to meet for the first time in history. A young boy jumped out of his sleep as he heard the voice. Registering who the voice came from, the boy sighed as he rubbed the back of his head in stress. Not now. I was doing good on paying bills, he muttered as he removed his orange headphones from over his ears. He was currently in Guitar Center's break room and he fell asleep while listening to music. He wiped the drool that came from the side of his mouth as he stood up from his seat. He was about to leave the break room, but an older man entered the room. The boy halted as he saw his boss, Ryan, enter the room. Yo, said Ryan with a smile. Your break's over. Hi, Ryan. Yo dragged out the hay with anxiety. What's going on? You alright, yo? Asked Ryan. Yeah, sorry to tell you this, but I'm going to have to quit. Quit? Shouted the man, making Yo wince at the level of vowel. Why do you want to quit? You've done so well here. I was just going to say that you are going to be the employee of the month. Shouted Ryan as he showed Yo a plague with his face and name on it. I do want that plague. Yo slobbered out the mouth as he looked at the award. It was something that he was working towards for a couple of months now. If that's really mine, then I get the premium parking spot behind the shop. Yo shook his head, getting those thoughts out of his head. He had to go, and he had to go now. Sorry, Ryan, but this is must. Is Anna making you do it? Asked Ryan. Yeah. Yes, she is. You know how much she hates my job. She wants me to have a grown man job. Yo said. But this is a grown man job. Ryan fought back. He wanted to keep his favorite employee. Sorry, Ryan, but this is it. Yo said. What if I increased your pay to $16, eh? $16 an hour. Shouted Yo as dollar signs flashed in his eyes. That was a lot of money that sounded pretty good to Yo. Maybe he could get away with this one. No, wait. I can't. Muttered Yo. He had to get to Anna, who was probably resting at their house. Something has popped up and I can't keep this job. Assistant manager. Shouted Ryan. You can be assistant manager if you stay. Oh my. Sweet baby. I've always wanted to be an assistant manager. Muttered Yo. And I'll throw in classic records that I know you want to add to your collection. Exclusive classic records. Shouted Yo. You've got a no wait. I can't accept. I'm sorry, Ryan, but I must go. No. Shouted Ryan as he held onto Yo's legs as he tried to leave the building. Customers were watching the scene, weirded out that a grown man was trying to hold back a young boy. This is going to take a while. Muttered Yo as he continued to streak to his car. Hollywood Hills. A young blonde girl was sitting in a chair inside a large mansion. The mansion's decoration was Japanese-orientated, and the girl in a traditional, red kimono with sakura petals decorating it. She was reading a magazine with her feet in the chair, scrunched up comfortably and in silence. Now's the time, everyone, we are in Koho, Japan. It's time for Naruto Bael's Peerage to meet for the first time in history. Suddenly, the magazine was torn into, revealing the girl's angry face. Why now, all of a sudden? She muttered as she threw the separate pieces of the magazine behind her. A smartphone beside her started to ring, the caller ID reading "Idiot Babe." "Hello." She answered with a little bit of anger in her tone. "Hey, Anna," said Yo. "Did you get the message that the snake man sent?" "Yeah, I just heard it," she muttered quietly. "What are you doing? What's all that noise in the background?" "Well, I'm trying to leave because I quit, but Ryan won't let me." "Ow. Let go of me, damn it. I said I'm done," said Yo, shouting at his manager. "Put Ryan on the phone." What was that, dear?" asked Yo. "I said put Ryan on the damn phone." "Here, Ryan." "Hello," said Ryan. "Release my future husband now before I show up to where you live, and I'll kill you and your family. Understood?" "Yes, ma'am," Ryan said in fear. "Good. Now put Yo back on the phone." "Why, hello," said Yo. "Get back to this house now so we can pack." "Yes, ma'am." "Somewhere in Japan. Now's the time, everyone, we are in Koho, Japan. It's time for Naruto Bael's Peerage to meet for the first time in history. A busty woman in a black kimono, a yellow obi, a set of golden beads, and an ornately detailed headband head tilted up at the sky when she heard the voice. The cat ears on her head were moving in every direction, trying to pick up if anyone was near. "So, it's time," she muttered to herself. "You're really going to start everything." An orange orb appeared beside her, floating to the height of her shoulders. "Yes, I'm planning my return. Don't rush yourself, Naruto, nya," the lady muttered as she rubbed orange orb. You stay. I go to sleep, good morning, Kuroka," the orb said as it disappeared. The newly named Kuroka giggled to herself as she watched the orb dissipate. "You're stupid, Naya." "You mean good night." Kuroka continued her walk in the forest by herself. Her king was finally making his move. It was about time he did, if you asked for Kuroka's opinion, but she understood the time and planning it took for everything to work out. "When you are free," she muttered, knowing that she was alone. "I'll be there for you, as your queen, Naya, and I hope you get to love me like how I love you, because you were always there for me, Naya." Flashback, 6 years ago. "There she is," shouted a devil with a spear in his hands. "After her. She's not getting away this time." Running away from a small group of devils was a young, 13-year-old Kuroka. Bleeding from multiple parts of her body, she was running for her life from the devils that were trying to kill her. After killing her old master for trying to experiment on her younger sister, she was on the run as a SS-class stray devil. She had given her sister up to the young Gremory, knowing that they could protect her more than she could. While Kuroka considered herself strong, even she had her limits. A magical bolt of lightning struck Kuroka, stunning her. She fell to the ground as a group of 10 devils surrounded her. "Finally got your murdering ass," said a tired devil woman as she looked down at the Nikomata. After killing her former master, a lot of devils hated Kuroka. They all looked far and wide, wanting to return her to the underworld to collect the bounty award. You have to understand, Naya, I did it for my sister," Kuroka uttered out as the electrical charge from the lightning kept her from talking correctly. "I don't care what you did it for," said the woman as she stood over Kuroka. "All I care about is the award we'll be getting for turning you in." The leader of the group smirked as she heard her colleagues laugh in happiness. They finally found the Nikomata, and they were going to be rich for turning her in. No. Please. Kuroka muttered, but they continued to laugh at Kuroka's predicament. Without their knowledge, 2 orange orbs slowly appeared from the ground, as if it just passed through it without any resistance. The 2 orbs glowed red as their aura surrounded Kuroka. The leader of the bounty hunters jumped back as she felt the power coming from Kuroka. Kuroka's body was slowly lifted from the ground as the red aura surrounded her body. The aura seemed to make an outer shell around Kuroka as a mecha suit. The only thing visible of Kuroka was her head, which was in a red, but transparent, glass-like dome. Armed with stubby fingers, but large fist and mechanical-like arms that were longer than Kuroka's. It stood at about 6 feet, but it was reeking of power. In the middle on the mecha armor was a tattoo that was a deeper color of red than the rest of machine. The leader of Bounty Hunter looked on in wonder as she looked at the machine. What was this thing, which appeared out of nowhere? And that tattoo on the middle? God? The leader said to herself. Meanwhile, Kuroka was filled with fear as she tried to move her body inside the magical entity that she was currently in. The power she felt inside of it was great, but it still scared her because she didn't know what was happening. The orange orbs outside of the 6-foot machine slowly attached themselves onto the glass-like dome, making the illusion that they acted as eyes. Duba, Duba, said the golem in a mechanical way. Hello? Said a voice that was foreign to Kuroka. Can you hear me? Me? Who are you? What's going on, Naya? Shouted Kuroka. The time it took for the armor to surround her was enough for her to recover from the lightning she took earlier. While I can't tell you my name, I can tell you that you are in my golem of destruction, created by yours truly, said the voice. The bounty hunters yelled out as they attacked the golem, but the golem answered back, blocking and avoiding all of their attacks, while also hitting them with its own physical hits. Wah! What are you doing? She shouted as she watched the fight in first person. The golem dodged a lightning strike produced from one of the devils in the area. It flew towards said devil with swiftness, instantly killing them with a punch enhanced with the power of destruction. The power of destruction, muttered Kuroka as she continued to watch the battle. You're a Bael? Yup. And I'm glad that I appeared in time, or I wouldn't have been able to save you, said the voice. I'm controlling the golem you're in right now mentally. I'm not physically there. The golem was fighting against a male devil that was also physically strong. The bounty hunter kicked at the golem, but it caught it and broke his leg with a quick snap. Kuroka closed her eyes in fright as she heard the man's howls of pain. Just make it stop. I don't want to be here anymore, Naya. If you say so. Suddenly, everything was quiet. Kuroka peeked a little to see what was going on, but she didn't see any of her hunters. Sorry about that, muttered the voice with a slightly crazed laugh. I should have ended that a while ago. Duba, Duba, said the golem as it started to fade in sight. Soon enough, the golem was gone and Kuroka was back on her feet. The 2 orange orbs floated in front of her and combined to make one orb, which was slightly bigger than before. You saved me, Naya, said Kuroka. Yeah. I did it because, you seem, said the orb. Why are you talking like that, Naya? Asked Kuroka with a raised eyebrow. I have better control over my magic, in my golem, uttered the voice. Oh, well, thank you, Naya, for saving me, said Kuroka with a smile. No problem, said the orb. So, what do we do now, Naya? She asked. We go eat pickles. Ha! What are you talking about, Naya? I want you to tell me how pickles taste, said the orb. I also want to convince you to become my queen. What? said a surprised Kuroka. This person wanted her to be his queen. Well, I am honored by that, Naya, but I can't accept. I just got out of my old master's peerage, and I don't want to be in any other peerage for very long time, Naya. He. Don't worry, I'll convince you one day. Flashback end. Kuroka sighed as she thought back to her first meeting with her master. She was so young back then when she was running away from hunters. Now she could take care of herself, but she didn't do it alone. She had her king's help all the way. For the last 6 years, Naruto was the best thing that has happened to her. When we free you, I'll be the one to heal your heart, she said as she continued her walk. Chapter 5, The Storm Before the Next Storm. Kuo. Man, I'm bored, said Issei as he walked down the crowded street. The meeting between Rias, Sona, and Orochimaru happened 3 days ago. Issei, while he was supposed to go, had met Asia while on his way back to the school and decided to help her instead. He knew that he wasn't as important as the other members to Rias' peerage, so he thought he could get away with this one slip-up. However, that proved to be false because Rias giving him the scolding of a lifetime when she saw him the next morning. She expressed her anger further by punishing him with 100 lashings on his bottom. Issei shivered and rubbed his, but as he thought back to that cursed magic seal, she used to embarrass him in front of the rest of his fellow peerage members. While he understood her anger, he just wished that she delivered her punishment in private. After that, he continued his training with Kiba, who was helping him develop with his sacred gear. He wanted to get stronger, strong enough to protect those that he loved. Issei stopped walking as he started to think to himself. Other than my parents, do I even have anyone I love to protect? His heart throbbed in pain as he thought about Yuma's smiling face. It continued to torture him in his dreams because it was the face of the person that he loved, the person that he failed to protect. Don't think too much of it, partner, said the voice of Drake, the legendary dragon sealed inside of his Longinus. You couldn't have done anything back then. You were a human that didn't know anything about the supernatural. What happened to that girl is not your fault. However, you can use her death as motivation to protect those that you will come to love in the future. Hey, you're right. I understand that there was nothing I can do. But there was something that she could have done, Issei said with gritted teeth as she thought back on Ria's selfishness. Well, true, it's something you can't continue to hold on, explained the dragon. Hatred is a poison you drink willingly. Over time, you'll come to understand the Gremari's reasons as to why she did what she did. I suspect that she has her own problems that she hides from us. And it's the fact that she continues to hide things is why I don't trust her, exclaimed Issei. She's my king, and I'm supposed to be loyal to her, but I don't think that I can ever forgive her, Drake. Understandable, but you'll learn that holding on to that hate won't benefit you in the long run, said Drake. It was silent between the two before Drake spoke again. Someone is coming. 2 of them, actually, and they're strong. Get ready. Taking heed to his shouts of worry, Issei looked around to see if he could locate whatever supernatural creature was behind him. They wouldn't try to attack him here, in a crowded place, right? Issei finally located the 2 that was imitating the magic that Drake was talking about. It was a boy and a girl who seemed to be around his age. The boy had a lot of suitcases in his hands while the girl, who was very cute to Issei after giving her a quick once-over, was enjoying a cup of lemonade. So you're the guy that we felt out, said the blonde girl that had a nonchalant face. You're nothing to worry about. Now, Anna, that wasn't nice, said the boy. He looked towards the curious Issei with a lazy smile. Yo. My name's Yo and this is Anna. Hi, Issei said with an awkward wave. I'm Issei. Hey, quick question, Yo said. Do you know of a devil named Orochimaru? Issei flinched at the name, remembering the fear that Orochimaru put in him during their first and only meeting. If Issei had any say, he'd wish to never meet that man again. No. No, I don't know where he lives. All I know is that he and Lee are living somewhere in the city. Answered Issei. Huh. Useless. Muttered Anna as she continued walking. Hey. Said Issei as he followed Anna. What's your problem? I haven't done anything to you and already seem to have a problem with me. You're a devil here, and you don't know anything about the other devils that live in this city. It shows that you are insufficient as a devil and aren't any help at all. Explained Anna heartlessly. Anna. Muttered Yo as he stepped in front of his fiancée. Stop that. You don't know who he is. You shouldn't be mean like that. Anna was going to retort, but a quick glare from Yo stopped her. She sighed as she kept walking. Whatever. She whispered as she continued her walk. Damn it, now she's mad. Muttered Yo with a sigh. Sorry about Anna. She doesn't like new people. So, what's your name? I'm Issei Hayadu, pawn of Rias Gremory. Said Issei. I became a devil not too long ago, so I'm not as strong as the other devils. Hey now, that isn't anything to be sad about. Said Yo as he noticed Issei's depressed face. Everyone starts from the bottom at one point. Well, I wish I can climb out of the bottom quickly because I want to be stronger. Issei proclaimed. I want to be able to protect those who I love. Me too. Said Yo with a small grin. Hey, walk with me. I want to learn a little about the area and devils around here. Sure. Do you need any help with those bags? Asked Issei. Sure. Here you go. Yo handed most of the bags to a surprised Issei, who gritted his teeth at the weight of the bags. Just what did they have in here? That sure is a weight off my shoulders. I've been training a lot recently without a break. I needed that, so thanks. Said the grateful Yo. Yeah, you're welcome. Gasped out Issei as he walked beside Yo. So, what type of training do you do? Well, I'm a knight, so I do a lot of speed training. Answered Yo. I don't like getting hit during a fight, so I value speed over everything. However, I don't focus all my attention on one skill. Remember, versatility will save your life. Right. Issei said with a nod, mentally taking note of Yo's wisdom. And you're also a part of this mystery man's peerage with Orochimaru? I suppose you can't tell anyone about your master's identity either, huh? Yeah, sorry about that. Said Yo. My master wants to keep his identity a secret for a little while longer. He's the type of person who likes to make big entrances. So, you haven't met him either? Lee said he doesn't even know what your master looks like. Asked Issei. Yup, I haven't met him face to face, but I feel like I've known him all my life. Yo answered with a smile and closed eyes. That man is incredible, and I can't wait to meet him one day. I just want to sit back and listen to vinyl records with him. That sounds really nice if you ask me. What made you accept his offer into his peerage, if you don't mind me asking? Asked Issei. Lee and Orochimaru have their own reason, but I'd like to know yours as well. Oh. Said Yo with a raised eyebrow. You seem to have an interest in my master. Is there a reason why? Well. Muttered Issei as he thought back to his own master. I don't get along with my master as much as a servant should because of a very sensitive reason. He said with a gulp. I do just want to compare the differences between my master and yours. I understand, but I've got to tell you, my story isn't all that great and fantastic like the others. The reason why I joined my master's peerage was mainly because he saved my brother from himself. Saved your brother from himself? Said Issei with curiosity. How did that come about? My brother, Hawasakura, hated a lot of things growing up. Yo said with a sigh. He saw how societies worked, both humans and devils, and despised both. He hated the arrogance that devils had and the selfishness that humans had and wanted to change it. While we grew up in a nice home, and had no worries during our childhood, Hao hated how we lived. He would watch all of the low-class devils be discriminated against high-class devils and hated that he couldn't do anything about it. The same with humans, as he studies world history and remembered all the mistakes that humans did throughout time. He doesn't understand why the biblical God made humans his chosen race, and he hated all of them. There was a time, a very bad time for Hao, where he would go out and kill both humans and devils for their actions, and his hatred spread to fallen angels after having a few altercations with them. But then, my master appeared out of nowhere and talked to him. Talked to him? That's it? Asked a surprised Issei. It seemed like Hao was such a strong-willed person, so how can a talk answer everything? They didn't talk once, but talked for about 8 years. Answered Yo, shocking Issei. He was so humble, and took the time to fully understand Hao. I was actually quite jealous, because Hao would refer to our master as his first friend. However, I had to take a seat back and let them talk, because I felt like our master was the only one that could get to Hao. All of those years, our master explained to Hao how societies worked, how they fell, and how they improved. Hao's problem was that he focused on the bad so much, that he didn't even believe that there was any good in anyone. He believed that people would only do good whenever they needed something from someone else. However, my master broke down history, talked to Hao about psychology and why people thought the way they did. He made Hao believe that the word good had actual meaning to it. Issei listened to Yo's story with his full attention as the two continued to walk out of town. He couldn't believe that there was someone out there, especially a devil, who could have such patience to change such a wicked heart like Hao's. Yo looked up to the clouds with a smile as an image of his brother appeared in his head. My master saved Hao from his loneliness. He thought that he was the only one that thought that there was no such thing as good and felt so lonely. Even as his brother, I couldn't do a thing to help my brother, because he hated me as well. Why did he hate you? You're his brother? Asked Issei. Because I didn't understand him. Answered Yo as he shook his head. He felt that since we were twin brothers, that I should have shared his beliefs. He felt betrayed when I told him that I didn't like the way he thought of the world and shunned me and our family. To him, the only person that he could trust was himself. It hurt me so much to see my own brother look at me with such hate, and it hurt me even more knowing that I couldn't do anything about it. Hao has a strong will, and it's next to impossible to change how he thinks. And your master did all of that, he changed such a wicked heart and freed it. Muttered Issei. Well, Hao still doesn't like a lot of humans, devils, fallen angels, etc. But his hatred isn't as extreme as it once was. He started to see that while there is and will forever be bad people in this world, there are still good people that exist. When he realized that, I knew that my brother was back. Said Yo with a closed-eye smirk. It was one of the happiest days I ever had. So how did he become a member of your master's peerage? Asked Yo. Well, after Hao had his realization, he finally asked my master who he was. See, throughout all 8 years of Hao's renewal, he never knew his real name or his story. He just took in the wisdom that he had and added it to his own. And so, when Hao asked that, my master told him everything about him, leaving nothing hidden. After that, Hao asked him for a place in his peerage, which surprised my master as much as it did me when I learned about it. Said Yo. My brother isn't a humble person, so for him to ask another person if they could serve them for all eternity, it's kinda mind-boggling once you think about it. Answered Yo with a grin. So, your master accepted Hao into his peerage? Asked Issei with a raised eyebrow. Yeah, made him his first bishop. It was really a surprise for everyone once he announced that he was a part of another devil's peerage, but we were all glad to have Hao back. So how did you become a part of his peerage? Asked Yo. I volunteered. answered Yo, surprising Issei. If there was anybody in this world I'd serve, it would be the man that saved my brother from his loneliness. I was so grateful to him that I offered myself up to him. He wasn't so sure at first, but I kept bugging him. Yo said with a chuckle. However, after a few weeks, he finally caved in and accepted me into his peerage. What about her? Asked Issei as he pointed to Anna, who was way ahead of them. How did she get in? Well, first of all, Anna is my fiancée, said Yo. Your fiancée? Shouted Yo. How? She seems so mean and you two seem like opposites. I know, and while I'm not 100% sure how it worked, but I guess that our opposites attracted towards one another. My laziness with her seriousness. She scared the hell out me when we first met, but over time, Anna's a sweetheart. It just took time. And so, she followed you and asked to be a part of your master's peerage? Asked Yo. Yup. While she didn't like the idea of serving someone until death, she recognized our master's strength and believed that she could grow under him, which shocked me just like it did with Hao. Anna is a prideful woman just like how Hao is, so for her to ask to serve someone really shocked me. That was an incredible story, muttered Issei. Your master seems so cool, calm and awesome. I mean, he took 8 years out his life to convince one person of the bad things he was doing. It's just incredible if you ask me. Yeah, even though 8 years isn't anything to devils, it's still a lot of time if you ask me, said Yo as he looked up to the big house they were approaching. Anna had stopped walking and was waiting for Yo at a mailbox that was for the big house they were walking towards. But I'll still remain grateful to my master for bringing my brother back to me. I'd serve him until my time is over. Your commitment to your master is overwhelming, said Drake as Issei's boosted gear appeared on his hand. I'd like to meet your master and judge him for myself one day. Whoa, is that a sacred gear? Asked Yo with slightly widened eyes. Yeah. This is my boosted gear, and the one you just heard talking is Drake, the dragon sealed inside of it, answered Issei. Well then, my name is Yo Asakura. Very nice to meet you, Yo said with small head nod. Nice to meet you as well, young devil, said Drake. I hope that my partner can pick up your calmness. He is usually horny and thinks perverted thoughts. Very uncomfortable, if you ask me. Shut up, Drake, shouted a red Issei, embarrassment written all over his face. Yo laughed out loud at Issei, which only made his face redder. The two approached Anna, who had her arms crossed over her chest, and stared at the two with a stern glare. You kept me waiting, Yo, Anna said with no hint of playfulness in her voice. Sorry, Yo said with a hand wave. I was just talking with my new friend here. He's a good person. Anna gave Issei a once-over before rolling her eyes. I don't see anything special about him. He looks weird with that toy on his arm. This isn't a toy, I'll have you know, Issei said with a small glare of his own. This is my Longina's sacred gear, boosted gear. My partner Drake is within it, and I'd appreciate it if you don't disrespect him. A Longinus? Said Anna with a little shock in her voice. Good going, partner, Drake said mentally. She doesn't even know what to say. Why would the dragon choose a perverted person like you as his partner? Asked Anna with her usual serious gaze. Perverted? I'm not pervert, shouted Issei. While he knew that he was the ultimate pervert, whenever girls found out about him, he'd always end up in pain. And judging how Anna was glaring at him, he believed that he wouldn't come out this fight alive. I know that you're a pervert. I watched the two of you talk and studied your body movements. You can't help but look at the various women you passed on your way here. I even noticed how you looked at me when we crossed paths, said Anna. What? Yo said darkly as he turned towards the shaking Issei. The glare on Yo's face showed that he wasn't happy with Issei's actions. Please forgive me," he shouted as he got on his knees and bowed towards the couple. "Mercy. Mercy. And there goes your cool points," said Drake with a sweat drop. Yo glared at Issei's shaking body before sighing and waving the situation off. "It doesn't matter. Just help me bring our bags in." "Yes, sir," Issei said with a salute as he grabbed the bags he dropped and followed the two devils to the front door. After ringing the doorbell, the three waited until it opened by none other than Orochimaru. "Well, hello there, Yo. Anna," he said with a bow, in which they reciprocated. "It's been a while." "It sure has," answered Yo with a lazy smile while scratching the back of his head. "You still crazy about those snakes?" "Why yes, there's one on by your feet right now." Orochimaru sent the younger boy an evil smirk as he saw the blood rush from Yo's face. Yo heard the hisses coming from under him, but he didn't dare look at the demonic creature below him. Issei, however, jumped away from Yo as he looked at the snake in fear. "Holy shit! Get out of there!" shouted Issei with a panicked face, almost losing his grip he had on his bags. "Orochimaru, I'd appreciate it if you didn't traumatize my fiancée," said a calm Anna. "Plus, that is my job after all." Yo's mouth dropped and Orochimaru chuckled at Anna's words. "Of course." And recalled his snake. It went up his robe, but not before hissing at Yo again and disappearing into it. "PL please, don't do that again," said Yo as his body was shaking in fear. "No promises. Please, come in. Everyone else has arrived." Orochimaru opened the door fully for Yo and Anna to walk in. But when Issei tried to walk, he was met with a snake in the face, which made him jump back again from the venomous creature. "Whoa! What are you doing?" shouted Issei. He glared at Orochimaru. "While I appreciate you helping those two with their bags, I don't want you entering this house," Orochimaru said with a glare of his own, which sent shivers down Issei's body. "I don't want anyone who isn't a part of my master's peerage inside of this house, understood?" Sure, but what about these bags?" asked Issei. "Just set them down. I'll handle them," said Orochimaru. Complying with the snake man, Issei set the bags down on the wooden porch. Snakes slowly made their way towards the bag's handles and wrapped around them. Issei made sure he was a safe distance away as he watched the snakes pull the bags into the house. "That's freaky," Issei said with a shudder. "I'll be sure to remember that when you need my help." "Good day," finished Orochimaru as he closed the door, leaving Issei by himself. He sighed to himself as he started his track back toward the city. He didn't have to report to one of his hopeful contractors until later on, so he had some time to kill. "We should practice your compatibility with your sacred gear," said Drake from the green gem within the boosted gear. "We need to make use of all the time we can if you want to become stronger." "Sure," said Issei as he continued his walk. He had to become stronger, he had to if he wanted to protect people like Yuma in the future. "I'll show that snake bastard one day who's boss," he said with his fist clenched and a determined mind. Inside the house, Orochimaru had led the two into their shared room, which was upstairs. It had its own bathroom, a large dresser, and a queen-sized bed for the two of them. The closet was actually spacious for the two, allowing them to fill it with all their clothes in it and still have space for more. Other than those, the room was simple, but the two were happy with their accommodations. "You two were the last to make it here," said Orochimaru as he leaned on the door entrance with his hands crossed. "Everyone else is waiting for you two downstairs. We'll have a quick meeting among us to understand each other. While I've met all of you at least once, I know that some of you aren't acquainted with one another. It'll be strange living with people you don't know." "Understood, and thank for the easy move-in, Orochimaru," said Anna. Hopefully everyone is as smart and easy to understand like you, unlike Yo. It's just your life's mission to put me down, said Yo with a sigh. Thanks a lot, Orochimaru. We'll be down in a few. Orochimaru nodded before heading back downstairs. The two started to empty their suitcases and hang up their clothes. After that, Anna filled the bathroom with various hair products and towels, while Yo zipped up the suitcases and stacked them neatly inside the closet. Ah, said Yo as he jumped in the bed. This feels nice. We don't have time to get comfortable, Yo, said Anna as she walked out of the bathroom. We need to meet the others. I don't want to do that right now though. Yo muttered as he crossed his arms and pouted childishly. Anna sighed and placed a hand on her forehead in stress. Stop being so difficult, she muttered with a low growl. She rose an eyebrow as Yo stretched his arms at her direction. Come here, he muttered with a smile. No. Stop being so difficult, mocked Yo. I just said no. Yo gave her a cheeky grin. You know you want to. Yo. Sigh. Come on. Got you a seat right here, he said as he padded to the spot on the bed next to him. Anna rolled her eyes as she laid next to him. She wasn't surprised when he pulled her closer to him. She hid her blush as she felt his breathe on the back of her neck. This is a new start for us, we'll be meeting new people. I want you to know that they'll do good by you, Yo muttered in her ear. Holding back the shiver that went through her body when he spoke in her, she replied, You don't know that. You're just hoping that'll happen. Don't you trust Naruto-sama? He asked with a raised eyebrow. He handpicked his peerage, so you know that he wouldn't choose anyone bad. You'll see. You can make friends. I don't need friends, she muttered. All I need is you in my life. While what she said made him smile, he didn't want her to be so dependent on him. Anna needed to spend time with other people, but her own personal demons got in the way of that. We'll see, Yo said as he closed his eyes. The two stayed like that for a while, in each other's embrace, but they knew that they needed to go meet the others. So, reluctantly to the both of them, they got out of the bed and headed downstairs. They did hold hands while going downstairs, however, which made them smile somewhat. The two arrived in the dining room and saw a group of people sitting around the table. The only ones that they recognized were Orochimaru, of course, but also Yo's brother, Hawasakura. Yo, how? Yo said with a grin and wave. How smirked at his brother while giving him his own wave. How looked to be an exact copy of Yo, except for a few features. How had long black hair that went past his waist and was wearing a poncho cloak. One of his hands was sitting on the table, revealing his odd, large gloves, which were black, fingerless gloves outlined in black. There were 4, almost Lego-like, protrusions where his knuckles were. Yo and Anna sat at the available seats that were next to Hao and set their focus on Orochimaru, who stood up from his seat, catching everyone's attention. Good evening, everyone. My name is Orochimaru. I am a reincarnated half-devil with a little bit of Yukai in my genetics. I am a pawn of Naruto-sama. I hope that everyone had no troubles arriving here. No troubles, but it took long enough for this to happen, said Kisame, a tall, rough, blue-skinned man. He smiled at everyone, showing his shark-like teeth. So, what now? Suddenly, an orange orb appeared in the middle of the table, surprising everyone. I hate it when you do that, Hao said as he looked at the all-too-familiar orb. I'm GLA, glad to see everyone, Naruto muttered slowly. You all look good. Hello, master, Lee said with a bow. Everyone else, except for Kisame, followed Lee's lead. You all do that? Said Kisame. It's the proper way to show respect, said Orochimaru with a little bit of sting to his words. This is the man that saved us all from our past lives, after all. Save? He didn't save me. Kisame said arrogantly. He asked if I wanted to be a part of his peerage, and I asked why, and he said so you can get stronger, and I said okay. Simple as that. He explained. He. CLAS. Classic Kisame. Naruto muttered from his orb. I want you all to introduce yourselves. Get comfortable, yo. Your queen won't be here. Why? I really do want to meet her. Lee said. Personal reasons. Naruto said. Eat pie pickles. And with that, the orb disappeared. Does he say that to you all as well? Asked Kisame. I never understood that. Neither do I, said Orochimaru with a sigh. However, I do agree with him. If we're going to be living in the same house and a part of Naruto-sama's peerage, it would be beneficial to open up to each other. Well, since Orochimaru went first, I'll go second. Stated Lee as he stood up and saluted everyone. My name is Rock Lee. I am a rook, and I've been a devil for the past 2 years. My dream is to become the best martial artist I can be and prove that I can be strong only using my fighting techniques. Nice to meet you, but you didn't have to shout. Muttered Yo as he laid his head on table and yawned. I'm tired. Get up. Anna said as she slapped Yo's head. He flinched at the pain and stood back in his seat. Introduce yourself. All right. He muttered as he rubbed the back of his head. My name is Yo Asakura. I am the twin brother of Hao here, and Anna is my fiancée. I'm a knight, as well as a middle-class, full-blooded devil. I don't have too many things I want to accomplish. I just want to listen to music. And marry me. Stated Anna. And marry Anna. He finished. Kisame laughed at Yo with no remorse. Whipped. Damn right. Answered Anna, causing Kisame to raise an eyebrow in interest. HOH. I can tell we're going to get along quite well. He said with another chuckle. Anna's serious face was still present, but everyone could sense her growing annoyance towards the shark man. Anyway, my name is Anna Kaioyama, soon to be Anna Asakura. I am a low-class devil since I was reincarnated as a human. I am a bishop, which complements my shamanic powers. I will open a successful inn and hot springs business that will flood Japan. I will make tons of money and increase the presence of the Asakura family. I will become a god of the business world and tear all of my rival business down, because of the success of my soon-to-be business, the Funbury Hot Springs. I will. Anna stopped her rant as she noticed how the rest of her peerage members were looking at her, even Yo, who was fairly surprised by the passion she had for her dream. Kisame was chuckling, which added to the annoyance she had for him, while Lee had sparkles in his eyes as he listened to her words. She coughed in her hand as she sat back down. Excuse me. I didn't mean to go that far. Hao sighed and shook his head at Anna's actions. Humans. He muttered to himself. He took in deep breath before introducing himself. My name is Hao Asakura, older twin brother to Yo. I hail from the Asakura family, which is a small group of middle-class devils. I am a bishop to Naruto-sama and fire magic is my weapon of choice. I hope we can all get along. He said with small bow. Hee, well looky here. Seems I'm last. Kisame said with a shrug of his shoulders. Kisame Hashigaki is the name. I'm a knight who enjoys long battles. Not to be cocky, to hell with it, I'm probably the strongest person in this room so. Kisame's magic started to pour out of his body, which set everyone on edge. You should be wary of me. He whispered darkly. Our goal here is to become acquainted with each other, not to cause tension. Orochimaru said with squinted eyes. While everyone else had a regular introduction, except for Anna, Kisame's introduction of himself seemed more of a threat than anything. TCH, while that may be true, understand that you all are strangers, and I don't trust anyone I know," said Kisame, and he stood up and reached for his bandaged weapon that was leaning on the wall. "While we are members of the same peerage, I still consider each and every one of you potential enemies. It's the closest to you that will stab you in the back. Well, you're going to have to learn to trust us, Mr. Kisame," Lee said bravely. "We all serve the same master, so we don't need any negativity in the group. Keep your mouth closed, rookie," Kisame barked back, catching Lee by surprise. "Be glad that I haven't devoured you of your magic until you died of exhaustion. I have no love for newbies, so as I said before, you should be wary of me." It was a small stare down between Lee and Kisame, while the rest of Naruto's peerage readied themselves if the situation went left. This apparently wasn't the turn of events everyone expected, and now there was distrust within the group. The stare down continued for a little while longer, however. It ended when Kisame smirked at Lee with his shark-like teeth before turning to leave the room. Before he could actually leave the dining room, one of Naruto's orange orbs appeared in front of him. "Sit down," muttered Naruto. Kisame looked down at the orb with arrogance before replying. "And why should I do that? I said sit down," Naruto said without his usual pause. Tension filled the atmosphere, creating a sense of unease, especially for Lee who wasn't used to such conditions. Kisame glared down at Naruto before grunting and returning to his seat at the table. The orange orb levitated to the middle of the table, the same spot where he appeared before. "I didn't bring you all here in order to create tension," Naruto said, surprising the devils further. None remembered of a time when he didn't hesitate over his words. "I brought you here in order to bond as my peerage. However, I see that you all failed. It's his fault," Lee said with a finger pointed at Kisame. "He acted so arrogant like he was better than everyone here." "Maybe I am," Kisame said with an eye roll. The orange orb scooted closer to Kisame, which made him feel uneasy. While the orb didn't have any eyes, he felt like Naruto was peering at him with angry eyes. "I will not stand for insubordination. You knew of your job and I warned you of how to approach everyone, did I not?" "Yeah, but do you think I care for your excuses?" Naruto said without any of his usually playfulness. "While I'm stuck here, I can't keep you all in check as I want to, but I will not take any of this any longer. Do you understand?" The silence in the room added on to the tension. Everyone, other than Kisame, looked on, wide-eyed at the tone Naruto used. Never before had they heard him mad at anything before, even when they messed up with an assignment or job he had given them. It was truly shocking on how he was handling their seemingly arrogant teammate. Lee shuddered again as he absorbed the scene in front of him. Master is really scary when he wants to. Kisame glared at the orb for a while, wondering on how to respond. He felt so uneasy as he glared at it, as if the orb had eyes that could burn his soul with just a glance. His fish-like gill imprints on the side of his face shuddered as his danger senses were screaming for him to surrender. While he didn't want to look weak, his glare started to loosen up as he started to fold under his master's pressure. I understand," he said with gritted teeth, a clenched fist. He hated feeling like this. Like a child being reprimanded by its parents. He was Kisame Hoshigaki, damn it. Didn't his magic output shock fear into everyone around him? Good, Naruto said plainly. And just like that, the tension disappeared as if it wasn't there. "You all, have fun, and, now, talk about abilities. Get used to EAC each other. I'll be taking my leave." And the orange orb disappeared again. It was quiet again for a while, but was killed by Anna's light chuckles. "Seems your image has been tainted now, huh?" she said with a cocky smirk towards Kisame. "Shut up," he muttered with a sigh. He couldn't even try to lie to them to keep some of his dignity, because they watched everything from beginning to end. They probably would never let him forget this moment now. Listen, and this is me being honest, I don't trust new people. The only person I truly have respect and acceptance for is Naruto. I am an extra devil, and I've lived most of my life in isolation because of reasons I'll explain if I grow to like you all. So don't act like we're all good just because we are a part of the same damn peerage, because if we had it my way, you all would be dead. Because you're the strongest person here, right? Said Hao with a cocky smirk of his own. A small flame appeared over his palm. I'd love to test that theory soon. A dangerous grin grew on Kisame's face as lighting danced between the two. Orochimaru sighed as he slapped a hand over his forehead. I don't know if this is progress or if this is setting us back. I think that this is progress, if you ask me, Orochimaru. Lee said as he saw the newly born rivalry between Hao and Kisame. We are a weird group of people. Maybe we should try bonding with each other differently than how other peerages do so. I agree. Anna said while slapping the back of a sleeping Yo's head, waking him out of his daydream. In order for this peerage to prosper, we need to trust each other. While it may take some time, we'll adjust to one another sometime in the future. Correct. Orochimaru said with a nod. However, let's not forget the real reason why we're here. Will we have our own individual goals? Our first, and most important goal, is freeing Naruto-sama out of his jail. Everyone in the room looked towards Orochimaru after he spoke. While you all may not know of the full plan, let me explain it to you in depth, so that we're all on board. Time skip evening time. Kuo. Issei got off his bike as he looked up at the apartment complex where he would meet someone for a contract summoning. He didn't have any official contracts with anyone, so he hoped that this would be his first one. Well, I guess I shouldn't stall any longer, he said to himself as he walked up the stairs and down a long hallway. He was in front of the last apartment on that floor, and he was getting an itchy feeling about it. Believing that it was just his nerves, Issei took a deep breath before knocking on the door. Hello? Is anyone dash? He paused as the door slowly opened from him knocking on it. The feeling of dread filled him as he made his way into the apartment. Manifesting his booster gear, Issei crept into the apartment silently. Drag, do you feel that? I do, replied the dragon. Make sure to keep your guard up. I have a feeling that things won't end up like how we thought. There goes another contract opportunity then, thought Issei as he made his way to the last room in the hallway. He peered inside the room to see, to his shock, the bloody corpse of the man that contacted him. What the hell? He shouted as he entered the room. He checked the body, but the man was long gone. It was because that he contacted a shitty devil, and I guess you're him, said a voice behind him. Issei looked behind him to see a man with a crazed smile and a gun in his hand, putting him on edge. Why kill him for that? There's nothing wrong with what he did, shouted Issei. Nothing wrong with calling a devil for help? That's all the reason I needed to kill him. Anyone involved with disgusting devils like you need to be killed, shouted the man. The name's Friedselzen, the exorcist that'll kill you now, he shouted as he pulled what seemed to be a sword made from light to attack Issei. Devils don't like light-based attacks. Ria's voice echoed through his head. He remembered her saying that when she was teaching him all about devils. I've got to watch out for that, Issei muttered to himself as he dodged a sword swipe from the man. After dodging a few more, Issei saw an opening and took it. Just like I practiced with Kiba, he shouted as he moved closer to Fried, surprising the psychotic exorcist. Rearing his gauntlet-enhanced fist back, Issei knocked Fried on his ass with a punch to his face. Fuck, he shouted as he grimaced at his new injury. Issei, watching Fried's reaction to his punch, looked at his hand in awe. I did it. I punched a bad guy, he yelled in happiness. And you'll fucking die by one too, you shitty devil. Fried yelled as he pulled out his pistol and shot at Issei's leg. Gah! Shouted Issei as he had a hole in his leg now. He cursed at himself because he loosened his guard during a fight, something Kiba explicitly told him not to do. Fuck this! Issei shouted as he jumped at Fried with no plan of attack. Fried moved out of Issei's way and slashed him on his back, causing Issei to howl in pain. Fucking dumbass! Fried said as he rubbed his cheek. That devil's punch had a lot of force behind it. Too bad you won't see the light of day anymore. He yelled as he pointed his pistol at Issei. However, before he could shoot Issei, a girlish scream filled the room. Issei looked back to see a terrified Asia, who was looking at the body that Fried mutilated. Why, Asia? Did you finish setting up the barrier like how I told you to? Fried asked. Don't do this. Asia muttered out to Fried. Asia, this is what we do. We kill those that summon devils, for they aren't considered humans anymore, and we kill the disgusting devils they fucking summoned. I'll explain it to you once since you're new to this. Explained Fried with another one of his psychotic grins. Devils, but... She stared at Issei and her smart mind figured it out instantly. Issei was a devil. Yo, you mean? Asia. Muttered Issei as he noticed her tear-filled eyes. Wait, do you two know each other? Said Fried in confusion. Is it true? Asia asked, ignoring Fried. Yes, Asia. I'm a devil. I didn't want to tell you because I know how the church and devils are enemies, that's why I haven't come to visit you. I'm sorry. He confessed. While that is nice, let's not forget what we came here for. Said Fried as he raised his sword over Issei. No. Shouted Asia as she stood in front of her devil friend, shocking Issei and confusing Fried. Please forgive him of his sins, father. Let him go. Forget this bullshit. Shouted Fried as he pushed Asia out of the way. Time to finish this up. No. Shouted Issei as adrenaline fueled his body. Boost. His booster gear doubled his power, and just in the nick of time. Time to test this out. Dragon shot. With an uppercut to Fried's chin, a blast powered by the boosted gear shoot Fried into the ceiling. While Issei's dragon shot was weaker than usual, he still won the fight when Fried's head hit the ceiling, knocking him out instantly. Issei! Shouted Asia as she watched him fall back down on the floor. A magical circle appeared next to Issei and Rias, along with her peerage, appeared in the room. Oh my, Aquino said with a mischievous smile. It seems like our new member handled things here, fu. Issei, are you okay? Asked Rias as she knelt down to inspect her hurt pawn. I'll be okay for now. He said with a painful smile. The bullet wound and sword strike started to hurt more now that his adrenaline was dropping. We need to heal him. Aquino, get ready to jump. Said Rias. Aquino nodded and started to prepare a transportation seal. Fallen angels are approaching. Said Kaneko. Hold on, what about Asia? Shouted Issei as he pointed to the crying nun. I'm sorry, but I can't teleport those who aren't a part of my peerage. We need to leave now so we can heal you before your injuries get worse. But Asia. Complained Issei. It's all right, Issei. Said Asia, gaining the attention of everyone in the room. Please go and heal. I'll be all right. Silently thanking the nun with a nod, the devils teleported away, with Issei screaming out Asia's name. Naruto's house, well, kinda his house. What movie should we watch? Asked Yo as he clicked through Netflix. Watching movies is a good way to spend time together, right? Agreed. Said Lee with a thumbs up. We should watch Enter the Dragon. I don't watch a lot of movies, but it should be something horror-ish. That shit cracks me up. Said Kisame as he sat back on one of the couch chairs in the living room. I don't even want to watch a movie. Hao said with a sigh. It felt like the more he was with these devils, the more his stress and annoyance levels increased. Why can't we just sit back and cook or something? We are watching Evangelion and nothing else, demanded Anna as she snatched the remote from Yo. Evangelion? What the fuck is that? Said Kisame. That sounds stupid. It's a legendary mecha anime. Surprisingly, Anna likes that kind of stuff. Yo said with a shoulder shrug. I'm cool with whatever we watch. We should watch The Purge. Hao said with a menacing smile. Stupid humans killing other stupid humans, I never got around to watching it. I've heard it's good. Now that sounds interesting. Said Kisame. Give me the damn remote. No. I said we are watching Evangelion and that's final. She said sternly. Who made you the boss over the remote? He yelled back. I did. She countered. Orochimaru made his way into the living room after taking a quick nap, only to find Kisame, who was being held back by Lee, trying to attack Anna. Anna, not afraid of the blue man's advances, wanted to attack as well, but was being held back by her fiancé. Yo, let go of me now. She shouted at him. Anna, please calm down. I kinda want to watch The Purge too. Does it look like I care with what you want? I said let go. She demanded. Listen here you green piglet. Let go of me, so I can kill Little Red over there. Kisame said, referring to Anna as Little Red because of her red bandana she wore over her hair. Please, Mr. Kisame. We shouldn't fight, replied Lee as he tried to hold the monstrous man back. Orochimaru sighed loudly, catching everyone's attention. I have a meeting I need to go to. While I'm gone, please don't destroy the house or each other. We need to be healthy in order for the plan to work. Kisame and Anna stared at Orochimaru, before grumbling and turning away from each other. Hao snuck behind Anna and plucked the remote out of her hand, enraging her even more than Kisame did. How? She shouted at the older Asakura. Settle down, little sister. Hao said as he patted the top of Anna's head, making her feel like a child. If you don't like the movie, I promise that we'll watch Evangelion. Oh no the fuck you don't promise that shit, said the vulgar Kisame. There's 3 Purge movies on this Netflix thingy and we're watching all of them. Kisame's outrage caused another shouting matching. Yo ignored them all as he put on his headphones and nodded off, while Lee gave up on trying to keep it peaceful. Orochimaru sighed for what felt like the millionth time of the day. Just how much chaos would happen in this house if they kept acting like this? Since Lee was the only person acting like an adult, Orochimaru reached out to him. Lee, come with me. Where are we going? Asked the self-proclaimed green beast. Orochimaru's smirk made him think twice about wherever they were going. Why, I did manage to get a meeting with one Naruto Bael. Lee's eyes widened at Orochimaru. Seems like the plan is starting to unfold. Care to join? The next day. Underworld countryside of Bael territory. Towards the coast of Bael territory was an average-sized beach house. It was isolated with no other houses in sight. Sitting not too far from a beach, one would call the house a splendid place to live, or at least, to go for vacation. However, the house's purpose wasn't anything like that. Inside of the house's living room sat Miss Bael, the same person that helped cut the relationship of Serafall and Naruto, drinking a cup of herbal tea. She looked up when she heard footsteps entering the room, footsteps that belonged to Naruto Bael and his queen, Keisha Abaddon. Miss Bael was once the proud wife of Lord Bael, is now an outcast along with her son. When she had Naruto, her firstborn child, she was the proudest mother in the world. Her own son was the heir to the most important clan in the underworld, and she couldn't wait to teach him all she knew. However, Naruto never inherited the power of destruction, the ability that the Bael clan hailed as one of the strongest, if the not strongest, abilities in the underworld. Lord Bael, her husband, disowned Serord for his insufficiencies and casted him along with Misla to the outskirts of the clan territory for producing a child that didn't have their clan's legendary ability. So, they lived alone for years until Serord started to build his own peerage. They would live here with his mother and train in isolation, promising to return Misla's former glory, but she knew that it would never happen. She never told her son this though, because she didn't want him to live a life of sadness, all because she didn't procure a child without the power of destruction. She wanted Serord to succeed in his dreams, even if he had to leave her here, all alone. Son. Keisha. It's nice to see you. Misla said with a smile. Mother, sorry for being gone for so long. Our training trip lasted longer than expected. He said as he hugged his mother. It's all right, dear. You're just preparing for your future. I don't have any problem with that, said Misla. While I do need some more food to stockpile on, it can wait. You do have that meeting from that mysterious man, right? She asked. Correct, Serord said with a nod. It wasn't too long ago when a snake crept to him while training with his peerage. It shocked him when he saw it spit up a rolled-up piece of paper, containing a message from an unknown person asking for this meeting. I was hoping to have it here with you and Keisha. You two are smarter than me when it comes to these things, after all. Misla chucked at her son's joke. It's fine, dear. I'm sure Keisha agreed to this? Yes. The person that requested this meeting asked for it to be a secret and somewhere secluded. It shall be here, and he should be here anytime soon, explained Keisha. I'll go prepare some tea as we wait. Wait. Nodding at his queen, Serord sat down on the couch and took a deep breath in. While he was looking forward to this mysterious person, he couldn't deny that he was a little nervous. He didn't know what to expect of this meeting. He just hoped he could create more relationships in the devil world. Son, I do have a question. Misla's question took Serord out of his inner thoughts. Why did you accept this meeting if you don't even know who this is? Nervousness wrecked through Serord's body. He knew his mother wouldn't like the answer to her question. Because they promised me a rating game I wouldn't forget? Oh. Misla's annoyed face said it all for Serord. Honestly, her son was such a battle junkie, and that was something that she got from his father, not her. The sound of someone knocking on the door caught the attention of both Baels. Keisha came from the kitchen to check out the noise as well. Well, I guess now's the time, she muttered to the mother-slash-son combo as she walked towards the door. She held in a breath as she opened the door slowly. Good morning, said the voice of Orochimaru. I am the person that asked for the meeting. My name is Orochimaru and this is my associate, Rock Lee. Nice to meet you, said Lee with a bow. Thank Lucifer, he isn't acting like a rookie, said Orochimaru as he approved of Lee's etiquette. Nice to meet you as well. I am Keisha Abaddon, Queen of Serord Bael, and we are glad to have you. Please, come in, she said as she stepped aside and opened the door further for them to enter. I just made some tea that I'm sure you'll enjoy. Thank you very much, Orochimaru said with a smile of his own. The two entered the house and Keisha guided them to the living room where Serord and Misla were waiting. Both Baels stood as soon as Orochimaru and Lee walked in. Serord stepped towards and stretched a hand out towards Orochimaru. Hello. Hello. My name is Serord Bael and this is my mother, Misla Bael. Greetings. I am Orochimaru and this is Lee, he said after shaking Serord's hand, noticing the strong grip he had. I'm glad you accepted this meeting. Well, I am curious on why you would ask me for a meeting, however, your offer did pique my interest, Serord said with a grin. I'm glad it did, and I promise to uphold my offer, Orochimaru replied. Please sit. Keisha should be bringing the tea soon. Misla said with a friendly smile of her own. The two devils agreed and sat adjacent to Serord and his mother. Keisha came in soon after with a plate that had the tea. She sat it on the coffee table in the middle of the room and poured Lee and Orochimaru some. "Why, thank you," he said as he gripped his teacup and took sip. "This is very good. Wow. This is amazing." Orochimaru, Orochimaru's glare brought Lee out of his hyperness. I mean, this is very delicious. Thank you, Ms. Abaddon. Keisha giggled at Lee's outburst and took her position behind Serord. He took a sip of his own tea before beginning the meeting. "So, Mr. Orochimaru." "Please, no Mr. is needed," he responded. "All right, Orochimaru, why did you ask for this meeting?" "I don't know of you, and I'm not sure of what you're planning," Serord said in curiosity. "Well, I'll be blunt, I am a member of my master's peerage and I came on his behalf," he said. "You mean that your master couldn't attend this meeting?" asked Misla. "It was disrespectful for someone to request a meeting and not show up. My master is currently injured at the moment and didn't want you all to see him in such a state," Orochimaru said while lying through his teeth. It was his goal to get out of this meeting without releasing any type of information on his master. "I'm sorry for the complications." "Oh, I understand. It's quite all right," Misla said, understanding his master's predicament. "Who is your master, if you don't mind me asking?" "My master has informed me to keep his identity a secret. He'll reveal himself soon, but now is not the time," answered Orochimaru. "What?" said Serorg in confusion. "He asked for a meeting with me, but doesn't want to reveal his identity?" "I'm not the best at these meetings, but I know that this sounds suspicious." "I understand your confusion, but Master is in a very difficult predicament that he can't reveal right now. I'd do my best to further explain it," said Orochimaru. "In your message, you said we would have a rating game. How can we have one when your master won't show himself?" asked Serord. He didn't like how this man was representing his master, and was feeling like this was a bad idea. "My master shall show himself, but in a different way. If you would please show yourself, master," Orochimaru said to no one in particular, confusing the Baels and Keisha. Suddenly, to the surprise of the three, an orange orb suddenly appeared in the middle of the coffee table, oozing out magical power in the form of mist falling off the orb. Serord's eyes widened as he looked down at the orb. What is this?" he said as he looked at the orb in awe. Even Misla looked at the orb in awe. She could feel the strength of the orb, which must be representing Orochimaru and Lee's master. This form, it would take considerable magical power and control to do something this. She muttered. "Why, thank you," said a disoriented voice, shocking the three even further. "It can talk?" Keisha said to herself in amazement. Both Lee and Orochimaru stood from their seats and bowed down at the orb. "I'm glad you are here, master," Lee said. No. Problem, I am the king of my peerage," said the disoriented voice. Inside of the orb, there was a red king chess piece floating in the middle of it. "My proof. This is something never seen before," Misla said as she continued to look at the orb. You must be strong." "No. Not strong enough," said the orb as it slowly disappeared. "What happened? Where did he go?" asked Serord. "Remember, my master is still injured." "He can't remain in such a state for so long," answered Orochimaru, lying through his teeth again. He had to remember to commend Naruto for his performance. Naruto could be in that form for as long as he wanted, to Orochimaru's knowledge. Will he be able to hold that form during the rating game? asked Serord. And I imagine that he won't be able to fight in that form. You'll be at a major disadvantage. Are you all right with that? Orochimaru chuckled somewhat at Sarorg's comment. He'll be able to hold that form. He's saving his magic for the raiding game, which is why he disappeared. And I promise you, we'll be able to survive. While you may be at an advantage because he won't be there, we can handle our own. Orochimaru's confidence was reeling off of him, something Misla didn't approve of at all. While you are so confident of your fellow Peerage members, it would be wise not to underestimate Sarorg as well. Misla said with a small glare. Orochimaru's smirk didn't waver as he waved off Misla's warning. I know, and that's why we're asking for this battle with Sarorg. My master wants to show off his peerage before he makes his entrance, and make a statement in Devil Society. Said Orochimaru. If I may. Kisha said. You issued the challenge to Sarorg, but do you have another reason for this battle? Quite a clever queen you have there, Sarorg. Said Orochimaru. Yes, we do have another reason why we want to face you in a raiding game. Orochimaru paused to add to the suspense in the atmosphere. If we win, our request is that you give us a pint of your blood. A pint of my blood? Said Sarorg. Why do you need that? For my master's injury. Explained Orochimaru. An interesting fact about my master is that he is a Bael. A Bael? Said Misla in surprise. Do we know of him? I don't believe so, Lady Bael. Answered Orochimaru. My master was injured very badly. And you want to conduct a blood transfusion? Finished Kisha, surprising the two Bael again. Yes. My master lost a lot of blood during the attack and is in a comatose state. We believe that the blood of such a strong Bael could help him, and who not to turn to but the heir of the Bael clan. Stated Orochimaru. Sarorg studied Orochimaru before replying, so you want my blood if you win, but what about my award? Don't I get something in return? Oh yes. Replied Orochimaru with another one of his devious smirks. Our reward, anything. Anything? Misla asked. Yes, anything that you want, we can provide. Orochimaru said confidently. How can you do such things? You don't have that type of power. Misla said. She was really beginning to distrust this devil. Ah, but we can. Maybe it will take a certain amount of time for some wishes, but we can accomplish anything. My master has secret connections within our society that have enough power to do anything. All you have to do is trust me. Said Orochimaru. But I don't trust you. Misla said as she crossed her arms over her chest. This seems too good to be true. I'm going to need some type of proof or incentive in order to take your word truthfully. Orochimaru sent the women a small glare. Even while there wasn't any hole in his story, she still didn't believe him. However, that wouldn't be a problem for long. Forgive me for what you're about to see. Said Orochimaru, confusing everyone, even Lee. Orochimaru opened his mouth and, to everyone's shock and disgust, and snake slithered out. Oh my. Kisha held in the vomit that flooded her mouth. Orochimaru. Lee said as he looked at the snake. This was just disgusting. He was regretting his decision on coming to this meeting with them. The snake's mouth opened, revealing a sword handle. Orochimaru grabbed it, making everyone grimace at the scene, and pulled the sword from the snake. Please ignore the saliva. Said Orochimaru as the snake retreated back into his mouth. Do you recognize this sword? No, said Sarorg. He didn't see anything special about the sword, and he didn't like how he summoned it. This man was creepy and disgusting. That sword, that's the Kusanagi no Tsurugi. Muttered Misla in awe. Just who were these people? Correct. A very powerful sword of legend. It is a holy sword, but after some experimentation, it could be counted as a demonic sword, available for the use of its owner. This is my bargain. I'll let you hold this to prove that we are serious about this raiding game, and want you all to fully commit to it. If we win, we get a half of Serord Bael's blood, and if you win, you get anything you want, plus ownership of this sword. Do you agree to these terms? Both Misla and Keisha looked towards Serord for the answer. He was the one that had the overall say-so in the matter. This was a great offer that they were putting on the line, but it was up to Serord now. When do you want this fight of yours? Serord asked. Soon. As in very soon. My master needs the blood because of his injury, and we'd like to make the transfusion as soon as possible. The sooner the better, but it's up to you, said Orochimaru. Before Serord could say anything else, Orochimaru continued speaking. And just in case you have trouble in deciding for a wish that you will fight for, we have the power to restore your mother's place in society. Serord stood from his seat and glared down at Orochimaru, who was smirking as if nothing was happening. How dare you? Do not use my mother as a bargaining chip, he growled out. I am using what is important to you because I need your blood, exclaimed Orochimaru. We both have people we want to protect, so I am forcing my hand in order for you to comply. Do you remember when I told you my master was a Bael as well? He is strong, stronger than you can ever imagine. He can release your mother from her forced isolation. Isn't that what you're fighting for? Serord growled at Orochimaru, gritting his teeth in anger. You just know of each way to attack me, huh? I did my research, Orochimaru said with a shoulder shrug. Knowledge is power, after all. Serord. Misla called her son. You don't have to do this for me. We've talked about this. You don't have to focus on me. You have a future to think about and not me. You should use your wish for advancing yourself. No, mother, no. Serord said. I want to help you. You've been through too much since you had me, and it isn't fair. I want to fight for your well-being because I love you, he said with confidence, shocking his mother. Serord turned to Orochimaru and held out his hand. Okay. Your master's peerage against mine. If you win, you can have as much blood as you need, and you can keep your sword. If I win, then my wish will be to restore my mother's honor, and I'll keep this sword of yours. Do we have a deal? Orochimaru and Lee stood up as well. Orochimaru reached out and shook Serord's hands with a smirk. He had done it. We'll have this game in 5 days' time. I'll contact the others and those in charge of the rating game to set it up. Good. I'll leave this here then, said Orochimaru as he set his kusanagi down on the coffee table. In 5 days' time then. Good luck to you, said Orochimaru as a magical circle appeared below his and Lee's feet. Understood. Until then. Serord responded. With a final nod, both Orochimaru and Lee disappeared. It was silent for a while before Misla entered a coughing fit. Both Serord and Keisha were at Misla's side. Mother, are you okay? Asked Serord with worry. I'm sorry. I tried to hold it back as long as I could, Misla said weakly. It seems like this sickness is starting to get to me. I promise you, Mother, I'll use that wish to help you, stated a serious Serord. I promise you that I'll win. Midnight. Naruto Peerage's house, yeah, that sounds better. Orochimaru and Lee appeared back at the house to find it totally dark. Everything was dark, except for the TV that was playing a movie. Ah! Shouted one of the female characters as a person from the shadows jumped out with a monster-like face mask on. Ah ha ha ha! Laughed the group that was watching the movie. Kisame, Yo, Anna, and Hao were laughing at the movie like it was a comedy. While Anna and Hao's laughter was more controlled, Yo and Kisame couldn't control themselves as they moved around in their seats in laughter. These people are so fucking stupid, laughed Kisame as he put a hand in the popcorn bowl and ate a chunk of it. This movie is too funny. Stupid humans. Hao said with a grin as he continued watching. Seems you all are having a good time. SSSHHHHHH. Said the group as they turned their attention back to the television. Orochimaru I twitched somewhat at being cut off. He instantly grabbed the remote and paused the movie. The fuck? Shouted Kisame as he looked at Orochimaru in anger. What's your problem? That was the third Purge movie we were watching and you just cut us off. Anna growled at the snake man. Not cool, bro. Yo said with a dissatisfied face. Can you please return the remote to Anna so she can press play? Said how that promised pain if he didn't do so. I came to tell you all that we have a rating game coming up in the next 5 days. Announced Orochimaru, gaining their interest while doing so. Be prepared for battle. This is the first step in freeing our master from his jail. They all silently nodded in agreement, understanding the importance of the rating game. The plan was in motion and it wouldn't be long until he would be freed. Okay, that's great. Now play the fucking movie. Shouted Kisame. You know, I heard that the next one will be in theaters soon. Stated Yo. Really now? Said Kisame with a raised eyebrow. When? Like, next week soon. He said. We must go see it. Stated Hao with a determined face. We shall see it during opening night and enjoy this amazing slaughter. Agreed. They all said. Orochimaru sighed as he left the room, but not before handing the remote back to Anna's control. He did his part and now, he needed rest. Morning. Hayuda residence. Issei yawned as he slowly opened his eyes. He felt well rested for some reason and his bed was so warm. One of the best sleeps he had in a while. A small moan came from the resting body of Rias Gremory next to him. He had apparently placed his hand right on her breast when he stretched out, causing her to moan. Issei looked at her beautiful body, and while he did find it attractive, he didn't overreact like he usually did. He wanted to enjoy the eyeful he was getting, but images of Yuma flooded his mind. He sighed as he looked up at his blank ceiling. This again. That's it for this reading. Hit like and subscribe for a free ticket pass going to the different worlds of anime fanfictions. Looking forward to having you on board again.